Hi everyone. So I got an iPad. This is the M5. It's I guess the 10-inch one. It's a smaller one. They come in two sizes. And I got an Apple Pencil for it as well. It was not cheap. It was actually really, really expensive. About as expensive as it ever gets. That said, I'm very happy with it. I use it a lot. Um, I guess I figured I'd tell you guys about the experience of what an iPad's like, and I can't tell you whether it's better than an Android tablet because I haven't tried one. I haven't tried any of the Microsoft, well, I've tried some of the Microsoft drawing tablets, but that was years ago. And so anything I say about that stuff would be terribly out of date. But yeah, let's just get into it. It's very light. It's very thin. I use it with a jacket. So I'm just going to pop the jacket off. This is just a fairly inexpensive jacket. We won't talk too much about the jacket itself. Very thin, very light. The battery on it's very good. It'll definitely last me all day. It's got a LiDAR camera on the back. There's some stuff that I'm probably going to use it for 3D scanning, maybe for some environmental survey stuff, but I won't get too much into that. I'll just try and focus on the drawing stuff. So right out of the gate, here, I'm going to actually turn it off so you can see. I never cleaned this screen, even though it did come with a wipe on it. But in terms of like dealing with glare, it's really good. It's an OLED display, and the contrast ratio on it's really good. Very, very bright. And I'd say this is like the first tablet that I can actually use in indoor fluorescent lighting, brightly lit situation, and the screen is really good. Like I can really, really see what I'm doing, and the glare is not an issue. This is using that extra expensive nano etched coating that they have. So yeah, this thing has all the bells and whistles. It can be made extraordinarily bright. Just look at the poor camera struggling. So yeah, you can absolutely make it very bright, like piercingly bright. Normally I will dial it down to half or even like a third of its brightness. It doesn't have to be that bright all the time. I'm satisfied if it's, as bright as long as I have, the same brightness as maybe, a piece of paper, I'll be satisfied. It's still brighter than the piece of paper anyway. Yeah, so in terms of brightness, very good. The battery life, very good. The pencil, battery life on it's pretty good. Charges when you stick it to the top. I really like the feel of it. Say that much about it. I've got these are I'm wearing two things. I'm wearing two kinds of gloves. I'm wearing like the compression glove that you can get on Amazon. The other glove is not a glove, it's a sock. Yeah, my mom took some socks, cut a hole, knitted them so they wouldn't fray. And they're very good. They're great in that whenever I draw, it doesn't pick up my palm. There's no palm. There is palm rejection on iPads, but really it depends on the software having, writing in their palm rejection. I wanted something a little bit more robust for palm rejection. So here it is. It works really well. But obviously I won't be using these in the summertime. It's going to get too hot. If you use a jacket with the iPad, let's put that down for a sec. If we slip this thing back into the jacket is going to protrude a little bit at the edges, and your hand's going to run into that. So keep that in mind. Then, all right, so let's talk about software. First, I have to make sure that my tablet's actually showing some stuff on the screen. So I'm using a piece of software called NDI. NDI is Um, NDI is my screen capture software. You can find it. I think. Anyway, we won't get too much into that, but yeah, I use this for my screen capture software. And the program, my favorite program for drawing is going to be Concepts. I know there's other drawing programs out there. Actually, you know what? Sure, let's do a little rundown of various apps that you could use. There's Procreate, right? Procreate seems to be the big one that everybody likes. I never got that deep into it. There was just things about the workflow that didn't really gel with me. So I'm not going to talk too much about Procreate. I tend to be a fan of a lot of underdog programs. There's Infinite Painter. I like Infinite Painter. This one is one that I will take with me sometimes to the aquarium and I'll use for drawing the fish. But I think one of the main reasons I'd like to use something like Infinite Painter for, say, raster-based drawing is because they have a really good like cutout shape tool. Really, really good for that. So I like its workflow. I like the tools I like the tool customizations. You know, like I can make a lot of my own custom brushes. I like how I can use a 3-finger gesture and I can pull up and down to change the brush size. That's pretty nice. Yeah, you've got like the various options for interactions. You know, I like how you can set up like a double tap on the pen to like toggle. Like I can double tap to like toggle my interface. I got like you can enable or disable some of those gestures. Yeah. There's an erase. And then I think I set this thing up to like, well, it's been a little while since I used this program because my favorite program would be Concepts. But yeah, I like a lot of the brush customizations and features and stuff that you get on this one. I just like the overall feel of it. I find that this one just kind of invites me to go in and change the settings and make the brushes exactly the way I like. But like I say, this is just, I don't know. Everything comes down to how long you use a piece of software and how used you are to it. So I'd say, I mean, look, if you've used Procreate all your life and you're really, really used to it and you just feel comfortable, keep using it. Honestly, keep using it. But if you haven't bought Procreate yet and you're looking to try some other programs, you know, you may consider using something like Infinite Painter for bitmap-based stuff. But even then, you know, even though I really like this program, it's like in the end, the one I use the most is going to be Concepts. This is Infinite Painter. I like, you know, Infinite Painter still has the best shape cutting tool, bar none. You know, out of all the other programs that I've tried, you know, I like that I could set up, you know, in erasing, I just tap on the canvas and then I use the stylus and that erases. So I haven't found another program that gives me a really good vector-based cutout tool, because then I can use this for like really quick landscapes. We'll just cut out some ground. Get some cliffs. Get some bushes. Put some other bushes so I can start working in negative and positive. And I can just cut out, right? It's like I can do layers. I can cut out a piece here, cut out another piece there, cut out like that. So you can do these layers. of objects, one in front of the other, in front of the other. Like it's a really there's just less, it just removes the friction from the process, right? You'll notice how little I'm having to go and poke and jab at the interface, right? To me, the main criteria that says whether or not I'm going to use the piece of software, like for me, the most important thing, I'm not saying the most important thing is decided by the Council of Artists. No, this is just my personal preference. My personal preference for a good piece of drawing software is going to be one that lets you get into a flow state, meaning that you stop thinking about the software. You stop thinking about, whether this is Infinite Painter, whether it's Concepts, whether it's Procreate. And if you can forget about what software you're using and you're not poking and jabbing at like changing brushes and having to diddle with the fucking settings and stuff, and you're just able to fucking draw, that to me is great. You've approached a flow state and you can just focus on the work. You can just focus on being creative and you can ignore all the technical crap. And so that's why I like Infinite Painter. I have a small handful of brushes that I've gone in there and I've made myself. These are all the brushes I will ever use. In fact, there might be even a couple there that I'll delete because I don't use them enough. And that's it, right? Yeah, it comes with 100 zillion different brushes, right? There's a lot of these. I just have like a few in my favorites, and I pretty much forget about all the ones that are added. I'm not one of those people that really needs a zillion different papers and paper textures and built-in brushes, because honestly, I can't keep track of all that. And I mean, look, maybe you are, all right? Maybe you are one of those people, and in which case Procreate might be the one for you. This one has a bunch of them, right? You can try those. But I have very specific needs for the brushes. And so I'll tend to get into the weeds. I'll make my own brush. This one gives me all the controls I needed to make the few brushes that I needed, and I can get into a flow state, which I like. Then there's Concepts. This is the one that I like the most because at heart I'm more of a line guy than I am a painter. Concepts is special and is very special in that it's vector based, not bitmap based. That means you can go in there and you can scale up into something, and you can scale and scale and scale, and then you can scale out, and then you can have this canvas that just goes on forever. Yeah, obviously I've only, I haven't shown you some of them. I'm not bringing up my other canvases, but you see, I like it where I can draw something. I can doodle something out. And after I'm done one drawing, right, I can move that aside and I can still do another drawing, and I can always kind of flick back and forth between the two drawings, right? That's why I like this. This thing is better as a design whiteboard for my stories, my story ideas. That's why I like this one. The tools are going to be even more simplistic, right? I've got it where I've set it up where I can squeeze the pen, and when I squeeze the pen, it brings up my tool wheel. I got my color palette, which is like that. Those are all built-in Copic, C-O-P-I-C, Copic markers. Yeah, it's basically a Copic palette. And then you can like spin it and choose whichever color. Most times I'm working in black. Oh, and then the other thing I like was how if I want to change a tool, so I just click that. There. We have the various brushes. Yeah, they got a brush market. I don't use it. And then, yeah, you've got your brush dynamics, pressure, tilt, velocity. I like how I can take a combination of pressure and velocity. It will take the pressure and the velocity settings, and it will multiply them against each other. So it means that if I start pressing hard, it'll draw a more thick stroke. But if I move fast, it will make the brushstroke thin out, which is it's more like a true ballpoint pen, meaning that ballpoints, if you move really fast, or like a gel roller, it can't dispense the gel fast enough, and so it thins out. So I've got something which feels much more like an actual gel roller pen. If you're using a tablet with with that nano texture, and you're not going to be using an applique. Like, don't use one of those screen protectors that you stick on top of it. Just keep your screen, make sure there's no grit on your screen. And I actually feel like there's just enough texture. It feels about right. Again, it's something I got used to it pretty much immediately. I can only speak from my own experience. I'm pretty good with it. There's like no there's very little friction. There's just a tiny bit of friction, but there's just enough friction, and so I like the feel of it. So if I'm moving really slowly, it's making a pretty thick line. If I move quicker, it makes a thinner line. And so the other cool thing about having this thing being all vector is I can bring up this tool. This is a nudge tool, and I can nudge my lines, which is like just crazy, because it means if I wanted to, I could like, here, I can draw one line, draw another line, and let's say I wanted those two lines to touch, and so I can just go in there, and we can just oh, I could just take those two lines and I can make them touch, which I think is just bananas. In fact, they're not touching yet. We'll make sure they're. I think that's crazy, just crazy. And then you can adjust the size of your nudge tool as well, and then let's see. Right, you can take a line and you can cut that line, and then you can boop. So it's like that thing where you're on a tablet and you draw a line and it wasn't quite right, and then you have to undo it and you got to redraw it. You got to undo it and redraw it. With the vector-based lines, that's gone. That's like a thing of the past, because you can go in there, get your line, as swooshy as you want. Yeah, you don't have it accurate. You go in there and then you can just boop, 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 and mush it where it needs to be, which I think is bananas. Then you could take, oh yeah, that's the other thing. I set up, there's a lot of options for interactions. So you can set it up where, depending on how your, how pen interactions are, how touch interactions are, there's obviously a lot of settings. There's a lot of settings, and so I could set this thing up where I've set it up where my fingertip is just the lasso tool, and so I can grab any brush stroke, and then with one fingertip I can move it around. I can use two fingers, do a pinch zoom. All right, we can make that bigger or smaller. Oh, that line's too thick. I can squeeze the pen and then just drag this left and right, and right, we can make that line as thin or as thick as I'd like. That's kind of, that's kind of awesome. And then if I like click, right, if you click a dot, oh, you get like a four corner, you get this four corner pin thing. So you could like apply some perspective to it. You could take, if you take two corners, then yeah, you're moving them like that. Witchcraft, right? So you could take any two, and then we can take three. What happens if I take three? Oh, I see. Okay, so it's always two. It's always a two. Yeah, you're always adjusting 1 to 2 points. So yeah, it's got some pretty solid witchcraft. And then if you click elsewhere, it just deselects the points, and then you're back to that, right? Like that's kind of awesome. Yeah. So for like line work, if you're like a line guy, then concept's really good. And then I set it up where if I do a 4-finger tap, it just get rid of the interface. You give it some time, it gets rid of the interface, and then yeah, I've got my tool wheel. I've got like my two favorite tools. I can get rid of the tool wheel by squeezing it. And then if I double tap with a pen in range, I've set it up for that, right? I can switch between my two tools and then the interface can just fuck off. I don't have to touch the interface. I can get to a nice little flow state. And yeah, that's like ideal, right? Ideal is if I don't have to worry about the program, if I don't have to think about the program, I'm a happy artist. And then yeah, we can just mush that line where it belongs. Kind of awesome. Now, I don't think. Okay, so one problem with the HX capture, NDI's HX capture, is that you guys can't see the grid lines. I'm going to see if I can do something about that. So if we have the grid options here and I hit this thing, let's see. Here we go. We go to the workspace. We go into the isometric grid. If I edit that grid, here we are. There, I can turn up the line weight. Okay, and now you can really see the lines. You still can't really see them that great. This is the compression off of NDX HX capture. So even though I've cranked it up, you still you can't see the lines that are going vertical. That is a problem of the capture and not a problem of the iPad. But in any case, yeah, I've got an isometric grid set up. I've turned the lines up like crazy. So yeah, this is not a very accurate representation of what you would really be seeing. But I like, having an isometric grid because that way it gives me a bit of a 3D sense for things. I can draw according to the grid. Right. It's kind of handy for that. Let me just set that isometric grid back to the way I like it. So you guys can't even see it now. And yeah, it's like, I guess if I was to practice like some 3D stuff, if I'm going to practice spatialization, it's like I could, let's see, let's draw one cylinder, right? I can grab that and then I can copy that and just slide it down. There's my, I gotta be careful. There we are. And then I can select my guidelines and goodbye guidelines. Like just completely obliterate a stroke if I wanted to, right? If I want to make like a funnel shape, take that, grab that, duplicate, copy that, shrink that down. Yeah, so we'll make the funnel shape like that. Let's move that over here. It's on the left side now and not on the right where my hand bumps into the edge of the screen protector. And then, yeah, you can rotate this thing to suit the way your hand is. And then, we can see this grid crest. We just 4-finger tap, get that out of our, yeah. And then we go. And then we just select our grid lines and, oops, grab too much. Goodbye and farewell. I love, you can see why I love working with this thing. It just, like I say, I like any program where I can enter a flow state. And then the other nice thing is this infinite canvas. It's just like, I want to keep like going. Like, yeah, there was a point where we should have stopped and we have clearly passed it. But let's keep going. right? It's like freaking awesome being able to just, you can just keep going and going and zooming out while you work. It's like, that's awesome. And like when you zoom out, we start to lose frame rate. But once you start drawing again, it's like, then it's fine. It's only when you're panning the thing that you might lose some frame rate. But I think if you zoom out even further, there's certain thresholds where it's like you get your frame rate back. So, but I never let that stop me. Yeah, Concept is a really cool program. Yeah. Anyway, I guess what else can I say about this thing? Well, all that drawing. Let's put this thing back on there. The pencil has not even lost a single point of energy. Not that this video is very long. It's about half an hour video. I think we should probably be putting an end to this soon. I mean, what else can I say? It's like, it's pretty simple. And I think that's what I like about this iPad. It's like, I pick the thing up, I launch my drawing program, I get into it, and I doodle. And it's nice. This thing gets me out of the office. It gets me away from my desk. I can draw in bed now. I can draw, at the aquarium. I can go anywhere with this thing, and the screen is really readable. It's lightweight. The battery lasts a good long time. The Wi-Fi connectivity has been very good. It's fast. I mean, what more do you want, right? Like the heat. This thing doesn't generate a whole lot of heat, as far as I can tell. The cameras have been really good. The built-in mic is really good. For the first time ever, I've got myself a tablet, or I've got myself like a device and drawing thing that, like, it doesn't give me any hassles, and I can just get into a flow state with it. I actually enjoy working with this thing. I just really like the experience of working with it. And for the most part, any functionality in there that I've, if I needed to customize something, I was able to customize it. And so, yeah, it's funny. It's like I'm not really. I've been using PCs my whole life. I've been using Android phones and stuff. I guess this is one of the few like Mac, Apple products. I know people sometimes like to bag on it, like to bag on Apple products, and some people like to glaze it unnecessarily. But I mean, yeah, there are some really good things about it. It's fucking expensive though. Okay, like, God, it's fucking expensive as hell. I will say that. So yeah, it's it's been good. I'll say that. I have to admit, it's been very good. It's been surprisingly good. Okay. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll stop the recording and see you guys later.